Victorian high society is one that mirrors that of Lake Windsor Downs from the book Tangerine. And I mean this in the least ridiculously silly way possible. And you may be asking, dear viewer, how in the world does Victorian high society mirror the society of Lake Windsor Downs from a book that takes place in the modern era? Well, dear viewer, allow me to educate you on how I came to such a conclusion. Now, dear viewer, in order for you to understand the conclusion I came to, allow me to describe the hypocrisy enclosed within Victorian society. For one, it is a well-known fact that Victorian society was the mother of idealist and, unsettlingly named, Victorian romance. But is the true nature of such a society commonly known as well? You see, in Victorian society, contrary to what we are told to believe, the active reproduction was encouraged in young couples, but such matters were to be kept private. It perfectly mirrors the society of Lake Windsor Downs, wherein which everyone is very safe-faced and high class. Their idealism seems to cloud their perceptions of reality, and though they have quite the distaste for mischief and their preconceived perceptions of their reality being rebuted, as shown by Mr. Fisher, they're also very apologetic in an effort to save the face of one such reality in the instance that their idealism is proved false. Which leads me to my next example. While Victorian high society is very prim and proper, note, a synonym for prim is Victorian, there were many demons that such a society tried to conceal. Say, for example, prostitution? Yes, my dear Vera, you heard me correctly. Prostitution. Now you may be wondering how such a morally incomprehensible trade could exist in such a society. But you may be surprised, as it was common practice for women, both married and to work in the active reproduction trade. Often high society women would work as prostitutes, just as those in the lower class. The only difference being that while lower class prostitutes had several clients, high class prostitutes only worked for one client their entire careers, which, granted, is a fact unnecessary to prove my point, but interesting nonetheless. Many in Victorian society either turned a blind eye to such activities, denying the mere existence of such professions, engaged in such activities, or tried to save women stuck in the active reproduction trade. This reminded me less of Lake Windsor Downs' society as a whole, but more of the specific dynamic between the Fisher family. They very much set up the picture of a perfect family with perfect children and no issues, which, of course, is false. Paul has a disability, Mr. Fisher has to take over and fix the mess of old Charlie, Mrs. Fisher is in charge of the Homeowners Association, and frankly has a bit of an OCD issue, and Eric is more than a bit psychopathic. Of course, I could delve much deeper into the parallels between this one particular instance, but if I did, I would run out of time, but perhaps in a separate video I may. The final parallel that I found and had time for in this video is the parallel of Eric Fisher and his friend Arthur Barr and Victorian fashion. Stay with me here. Victorian fashion, especially for women of high class, required two people to clothe and decorate a lady. This reminds me very much of Eric's relationship with Arthur, in which Eric takes advantage of Arthur to help him in his mischief and illegal activities, but still puts on a show in front of his parents, school staff, and authorities. I'm aware it feels a bit like a stretch, but I'm quite in love with this parallel and therefore am going to stand by it. Anywho, I hope you enjoyed and found this informational. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Bye-bye!